Friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And it's time for the AEW Double or Nothing Star Ratings Review episode here at Friendo Club Wrestling. This is a new thing that we're doing from what we understand during our short time here as wrestling podcasters and YouTubers, that star ratings are apparently a system that is used in the wrestling universe to review things and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do today for AEW's Double or Nothing.
Yeah, all 10 matches. All 10 of them,
All
yes.
10 matches.
All 10 matches, yeah. We're throwing our hat into the star ratings game, seeing how we compare with other luminaries in that regard.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
See if ours are appreciated and debated to the same degree.
I want Twitter to just light on fire due to what we've talked about here today on this star rating show. Mm-hmm. So we'll go ahead and kick off with the first match that was in the pre-show. The what are they called? The buy-in?
Buy-in, yeah.
And, of course, was Hardy Party versus All Ego Ethan Page and the Guns. Of course, Page's contract was on the line. I thought the build to this match, going back months now, has actually been really, really good. I'm kind of disappointed that they relegated it to the kickoff, or the buy-in, but it is what it is. Larson, how many stars you give this match?
Well, going back to your last point, considering that the first half of the story took place almost exclusively on Dark and Elevation, I guess it's somewhat fitting this match took place in the buy-in.
That's a good point.
Perfectly fine match. I know there's a scary spot where Jeff Hardy slipped off the top.
Mm-hmm.
Took a bad spill on the mat. Perfectly fine. I don't think it really elevated. It went far beyond fine. Mm-hmm. I gave it 2.5. Mm-hmm. It was a fine match, but I didn't necessarily think there was anything exceptional about it.
Yeah, for that reason, I gave it 2 stars. I thought that it was underwhelming in kind of every way that it could be. It didn't feel like a big moment. It didn't feel like a big deal. I thought, Page's contract on the line, I thought should have been played up a lot more. I thought there should have been a lot more desperation here. Jeff Hardy, look, botches happen. It is what it is. But yeah, no, this match sort of just felt underwhelming compared to, for example, like the Firm Deletion, which was, of course, that big, production that they did out there.
It's interesting that wasn't the blow off. That would have made a lot more sense.
It absolutely would have. I agree with that. Yeah, they should have had, Page's contract on the line there, and everybody gives him, all their finishers, and then he loses, and then, he's got to then work with the Hardy Party. So yeah, I gave it 2 stars. I wasn't huge into this match.
Next up, main show kicked off with the Blackjack Battle Royal for the international title.
I always wanted to call it the Intercontinental Championship.
Orange Cassidy successfully retained. Steve, what'd you give this bout?
I mean, it's a battle royal. It's like, I don't know. There's battle royals inherently always, tickle me because they're a lot of fun. They tell a bunch of mini stories. In this case, I think there were mini stories that really should have been matches. We've talked about that before. Jay White, Ricky Starks, Keith Lee, Swerve Strickland. I like that Swerve got a high profile here. I thought they probably could have done a little bit more to tell just how exhausted this run has made Orange Cassidy. So I don't know if it was... It's a battle royal where the guy putting the title on the line is kind of a comedy actor, but also he's been telling a story about how he's being worn out. Bottom line is I gave it 2 3/4 stars. I thought it was fine for what it was. That's pretty much all I got. 2 3/4.
Yeah, I went with 3. Everything you said is right. It is a bummer that Starks and Jay White and Swerve and Keith Lee didn't get their opportunity having singles matches on this card. That being said, they did have both feuds did have moments in this battle royal, especially Swerve and Keith Lee had 2 moments where they got an opportunity to kind of tell their story a little bit. And yeah, I kind of agree with you that they didn't really do a lot in this match to showcase how worn down Orange Cassidy is.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily feel like the desperation in him to win this match, because he just went through 20 other people. In fact, the finish where he just kind of kicks Swerve's hand off the top rope, it's clever, it's fun, it's fitting with Orange Cassidy's character, but it's a little too casual for someone who just went through a battle royal, and this is his 23rd title defense.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So I gave it 3 stars because it was still relatively enjoyable. It's a battle royal. Battle royal is usually fun.
Yeah. Moving on, we've had Team TNA, I guess. Jarrett.
No, you're skipping one here. Adam Cole.
Sorry, I was trying
taking on Chris Jericho in an unsanctioned bout.
Yeah, with Sabu as the enforcer who lasted all of 5 minutes as enforcer.
Maybe.
So, dude, this was a stinker. I think what expectations, there are, I thought the build was really good. Jericho, Cole, two guys who obviously Adam Cole can put on phenomenal matches. Jericho, over the past 6 months, even at his age, can put on really, really good matches. This match was not really suited to mainly Chris Jericho. I think Adam Cole probably could have done this with, maybe a different opponent, maybe done it justice. But it was just kind of gnarly. That being said, both guys did work their asses off. They got beat up really bad. And I'd feel bad giving this anything less than 2 stars. I wouldn't feel good giving this anything more than 2 stars. I gave it 2 stars.
Wow. This match was really lame. Chris Jericho had a really good Falls Count Anywhere match with Roderick Strong on Dynamite the Wednesday before.
He did, yeah.
And then comes out, and this was a turd.
Oh, wow.
I didn't feel like there was a whole lot of heat behind this. The only moment at this match that really stood out to me was when Britt came to the ring with the kendo stick and started wailing away on Chris Jericho with it.
Yeah.
I thought the finish was pretty lame. I gave this half a star. I thought this match completely took me out of the show. Completely.
Yeah.
It was
like immediate, yeah.
And the crowd was not into it.
Yeah.
It was no good. Half a star.
All right, good. Now let's move on to the AEW tag title match: FTR versus Team TNA, Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. I thought that this match was, for like 3/4 of it, was like standard and sort of below. I feel like what both these teams could probably do. Yeah. And so the first part of this match, I would give like 2 stars, right? The last 25% of the match where all the overbooking stuff happened, which is really what this feud should be about. You don't go to the Briscoes farm and then put on just a standard wrestling match. You don't do that. You got to get the overbooked stuff in here. Aubrey gets hit with the guitar and all this fun stuff happens. Jeff Jarrett sort of shoots his team in the foot by giving Mark Briscoe all that static. I gave this match 3.25 stars.
Same.
I thought that. Oh, okay. All right. Cool. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. If you have more to say, have at it.
No, go have at it.
No, everything you said's right. It felt like a pretty standard Dynamite tag match up until the overbooked part of it, and that's when it got fun. This is that kind of stuff is what you expect when you have Jarrett and Lethal with Sanjay and Satnam and now Karen Jarrett. You have a special guest. You're looking for these overbooked segments.
Yeah.
And it didn't really hit its stride. It did feel like the last few minutes. And when it got there, it was a lot of fun. And
if the entire match had been that amount of zaniness, I thought this would have been much improved. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, 3.25 seems fair.
Moving on. Next up, we've got ladder match. TNT title on the line. Wardlow, the champion, versus Christian Cage. You and I are probably going to differ on this one by a bit. I thought this was a lot of fun. In fact, as I, slept on it and thought about it more, I was like, these guys really, really did put their bodies on the line. As far as like being a character, Wardlow still has a lot of work to go. But in terms of being like a really fun wrestler for a guy sort of his size and his experience level, I think he's a lot of fun to watch. And I think he's coming along really, really well. And matches like this will only enhance that. Christian at his age, especially doing the kind of stuff that he was doing in this match, I got a lot of respect for. I thought the goofiness with Arn Anderson biting Luchasaurus's thumb off basically was a lot of fun. This was sort of a lot of stuff in pro wrestling that I really appreciate. I gave it 4 stars. I thought this was a terrific match. I really do.
I thought it was really solid. I gave it 3.5. Kind of like I thinking about it some more. My one qualm, and it's small, is just the finish of it where Arn helped Wardlow win. If you go to what Arn was telling Wardlow, and what Wardlow was saying is that I'm going to beat Christian Cage at his own game. And the part of the Swanton on Luchasaurus, yes, it hit that story beat. But I feel like to win, he needed to do something to Christian. Wardlow needed to do something to Christian to best him at his own game. And I felt like, well, it was Arn that kind of tripped Christian off the ladder, allow Wardlow to hit that power bomb. And maybe this is part of the learning process for Wardlow to get to that point eventually. But in terms of having a mission statement, how they're going to approach this match and actually hitting it, felt it was just a little bit short. I gave it 3.5.
Fair enough. Next up for the women's world title, Toni Storm versus Jamie Hayter. Difficult to rate this match simply because Jamie Hayter was dealing with a legit injury, and so they had to get around that and find a way to get the title off her without really having a substantial match, because she can't do that. I was actually surprised they did as much as they did, given that she is legitimately injured. You can sort of question the wisdom of that as well, but they're all adults. They can do what they want to do, I guess. I gave this match a 1.5 stars because I simply don't know what else to do with a match like this. I just don't think that there was enough meat there to really understand what they were, what they could have done had she not been injured. This seemed like simply a match designed to get that title off her. And although I think Jamie did a decent job putting up a fight in character, there just wasn't a lot here. That's why I gave it a 1.5 stars.
Yeah, I did. I'll do 2.25. You're right. There wasn't a whole lot here to work with given Jamie's injury. That being said, I thought Jamie did a really good job of showing some intensity, and especially after she got her shoulder wrecked by the Outcast, the kind of level of urgency that she needed to let us know, hey, even though she's beat up and she's hurt, she's going to do what she has to get the win here. And she hit her finish even, and Tony kicked out. Some of the overbooking during the meat of the match I thought was a little bit too much. It was almost getting to the realm of comical a little bit, because at certain points the Outcast kind of came off as a bit hapless. Toni Storm getting the win. We like Toni Storm here at Friendo Club Wrestling and Going in Raw. And it's good that she's getting a title reign that doesn't have the interim label on it. It's just a bummer Jamie's title reign has to end this way. But maybe she'll heal up and have a rematch with Toni, maybe it all in, who knows, and get an opportunity to get the title back. I give it 2.25.
There you go. Next up, the Trios House of Black Open Challenge. House of Black versus the Acclaimed.
Yeah.
I thought this was a lot of fun. I thought this was a solid match. Not a lot of, I don't know. I guess I could have seen, like, while it was going on, I was like, okay, I guess this is go the Acclaim's way. But I mean, I kind of figured it wouldn't. I gave it 3 stars. Thought it was a solid match. Thought they did a good job of entertaining us, like the rap beforehand where they referenced Dominic. I thought that was good. They need to get in a macro sense, they need to get the Acclaim back to where they were. They have completely and totally underutilized what the Acclaimed was, what they meant to the AEW crowd, and how important I feel they were to the brand. And they have completely misused that. That being said, really fun match, really good stuff. These teams I kind of feel are incapable of putting on a bad match. So yeah, I gave it 3 stars. I thought it deserved 3 stars.
I gave it 3.25. Everything you said is right, especially about how AEW has utilized the Acclaimed of late. Even though it was the Acclaimed, what would we say going into this? Billy Gunn's taking the pin. Billy Gunn took the pin. I mean, that's kind of one issue with the entirety of Double or Nothing last night, is so many of the matches felt predictable. And that's not uncommon for AEW pay-per-views, where you can kind of know where the end point of this journey is. But to varying degrees, the journey has been at least somewhat interesting in previous shows. And I felt like this show, outside of especially like the Blackpool Combat Club Elite story, which has been for the most part pretty good, just the journeys in a lot of these matches wasn't the most compelling. And I think as a whole, the card kind of suffered because of that. Even though we had matches like Wardlow versus Christian, which I thought performances were really solid, but it's just the story wasn't necessarily engrossing, so I wasn't as into the match as I could have been. Anyways, House of Black, he claimed, solid bout. It would have been a great Dynamite main event. As a pay-per-view mid-card match, it was really good. I gave it 3.25.
There you go. Next up, we had Jade Cargill versus TAYA VALKYRIE for the AEW TBS Championship. This is one of 2 matches for Jade Cargill. I gave this match 2.5 stars. I thought it was a decent enough match. I loved Jade's entrance. I thought that was great. To me, it was a foregone conclusion. I just felt that, they told the story of Taya not being able to use Jaded, Road to Valhalla. And then when she used it on Jade kicked out of it. When Jade used it on her, she couldn't kick out of it. I thought it was a fine enough match. I gave it 2.5 stars, largely because, Jade, she's just been on her own island, and I hope that when she does come back, if she's going to take a break, I hope they give her a bigger spotlight. But for this match alone, I gave it 2.5 stars. I thought it was a fine match.
Yeah, it was fine, and compared to most of Jade's matches, which are just squash matches, This was a pretty solid bout. I gave it 2 3/4. The story beats with the Road to Valhalla and the Jaded, really established Jade as, the person who does that move best, I guess.
Yeah, right.
It's just a bummer that was kind of the entirety of the story.
Yeah, and it didn't, when I go back to some of my criteria for my star ratings.
Yeah.
For me, does it do anything for anybody? Does it advance anybody's story? And this didn't advance anything for anybody at all. Again, they just have Jade in a vacuum, and a competitor enters that vacuum, and then Jade dispatches with them and then moves on.
Yeah.
Which leads us to our next match, Jade with the open challenge on the TBS title. Big return for Chris Statlander. Again, difficult match to sort of put a star rating on because there's so much going on here. I gave this match 2 stars, largely because Chris Statlander's return is a big deal, and it's a big deal for a lot of people. It got that crowd up and going, and it did a lot for Chris Statlander. She just beat Jade Cargill. I hope, and this is giving far too much benefit of the doubt, I hope it'll end up doing something for Jade Cargill. The idea behind it at the pay-per-view, of course, was a big moment. And I think I do balance out sort of my own personal thoughts on how this was handled, which I don't think it was handled well, with what I observed with my eyes, and that in a lot of the fans' eyes, this was that moment. This was Chris Statlander's big return, which everybody loved. I thought that I can appreciate that aspect of it, and what it meant for a story beat moment. I can't give it anything more than 2 stars, but I did give it 2 stars.
See, these star ratings aren't the perspective of anybody in attendance at the show last night. These are our perspectives. In my perspective, 1.5 stars. Okay. Again, it's short. It's hard to give a good, fair star rating to a match that was probably about a minute long.
Sure.
I thought the nature of the shock title change did a huge disservice to Jade Cargill and her title reign. Mm-hmm. It's not just the shock title change. It's that happening after she already had another match.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And I thought to a degree it did a disservice to Chris Statlander, her character, coming in doing the opportunistic title win. Mm-hmm. There's a story here to tell with Chris Statlander coming back and finally getting the win over Jade. And they didn't tell the story at all. They just did the shock title change. And I understand it was huge for people in attendance. I like Chris Statlander too. And I think if in different circumstances, if she had beat Jade for the title, I'd be like, cool, because it probably would have been a really good match.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But just the nature of how they approached it, just didn't really do much for me. Just didn't. 1.5 stars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're really not that far off.
No, we're not.
We're off. Yeah. After that, we had the Pillars match. Of course, this was the world title match. Didn't main event. Probably should have.
Yeah, should have.
MJF putting the title on line against the other Pillars, Darby Allin, Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, and, of course, Sammy Guevara. I thought this was a phenomenal match. I really did. What did I give this one? I gave it 4.5 stars. I thought they just absolutely killed it. They knocked it out of the park. All sorts of different stories going on. Everybody got to tell their part of the story. MJF being MJF. A really clever finish. I thought this was really terrific stuff. I give it 4.5 stars. It should have been the main event.
Yeah, it should have been the main event. I too gave it 4.5 stars. A lot of really good, interesting, creative stuff. Some good character work. Again, if it was a more compelling and interesting story going into this, I thought the match would have really benefited from it. Mm-hmm. That being said, they took the story they were telling up to this point, implemented it well in this match. And we don't know what's like. For example, we don't know what's next for Jungle Boy. He was tempted to use that belt, didn't.
Ooh, yeah.
Is he gonna, start listening to MJF and think, okay, maybe I should cut corners. Maybe I should cheat to get ahead because I didn't last night. Look where it got me.
He should align himself with Christian Cage, wily heel veteran.
Say, Christian, you were right all along.
Right, exactly. I'm sorry I buried you, and you went. Yeah. And then we had our main event. We had the Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite in Anarchy in the Arena. Larson, what'd you give this match? That's how I feel too.
Yeah, I gave it 3 3/4 because I thought the bar was set pretty high last year for Anarchy in the Arena because there was a number of memorable moments. I mean, Eddie coming down with the thing of gasoline, trying to light Chris Jericho on fire, Bryan Danielson push him away. Like, they destroyed the ring in that match. It felt like Anarchy. It felt like anything could happen.
Yeah.
And it's not to say Elite versus Blackpool Combat Club didn't feel like anything could happen. For me, it just didn't feel quite as dangerous as that first match did.
Yeah.
And you know, Mox promised a lot of blood and a lot of violence. And there was blood and there was violence, but it kind of just felt like Mox's greatest hits, kind of sprinkled throughout with different people doing the spots. Although it's mostly Kenny and Mox doing the barbed wire stuff. And a lot, like, there's, in a lot of respect, there wasn't even some of Mox's greatest hits in it, you know?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah.
It was solid. It was fine. There was some enjoyable stuff. The exploding shoe was cool.
That was really cool.
Takeshita's heel turn was expected, but still, this is a story wrinkle. Still don't know how all of the alliances come into play with Takeshita and the Blackpool Combat Club and Don Callis. That's kind of confusing. You know, perfect for the most part, fairly enjoyable. I didn't think it was better than last year's bout. I gave it 3 3/4.
I'm close to you. I gave it 4 stars. I thought last year's bout was a 5-star match.
Yeah, it was
last
tons of
year's
fun.
was awesome. This was a full star under that. Like you said, the exploding shoe was cool. Storytelling not quite as strong as last year's. The finish was confusing. I thought it was a good spot for Wheeler Yuta. I like that the Blackpool Combat Club guys let him get the pin there at the end.
Yeah.
Or I mean, the entirety of the match was built around that moment. So I thought that was cool. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars. I think these guys really worked their asses off. The crowd was into it. TV direction was a mess, but that's to be expected with something like this. So we're not far off. I do think it deserved the full 4-star, which is sort of a minimum of like, wow, this is pretty damn good, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I gave it a full 5 stars.
All right.
Well, that'll do it for this episode of Steven Larson Star Rates, AEW Double or Nothing. So let us know what you guys think. What are your guys' star ratings in the comments below? Be sure to hit that thumbs up button and the subscribe button. And be sure to subscribe over there at the Going In Raw podcast channel because we do that 5 times a week.
Yep.
Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.